welcome back everybody. Today we're going to be working on round layer. This is probably singly the easiest haircut to understand conceptually, but yet one of the hardest to execute in reality. Okay. So over the years I've seen a lot of different approaches to this, and all of them trying to simplify and make as easy as possible this beginning part of the haircut. But I have found that sometimes in an attempt to make things easier, things actually end up getting more difficult. So I'm going to kind of go back to how this was originally presented to me. And I think it still, to some degree, is the easiest way of doing it. Okay, so we're going to take a 1-inch profile parting from the crown, or from the hairline, all the way through to the nape. So basically, it's going to look like this. And I'm going to pin everything else out of my way. So hopefully we can get a nice view of how we're going to approach this. And I'm going to start by taking a subsection out the nape area, and I'm just going to isolate this up out of my way. Okay, so this is where we're starting from. Hopefully everyone can see that well. Okay, so I've already prepped the hair with Bedhead Small Talk from TG. It helps keep the moisture content in the hair where I need it to stay. Okay, and I'm going to be working with my 5.5-inch shears. For this type of hair cutting, I find that it just works a little bit better for getting in the nooks and crannies. Okay, so the key to this haircut is almost ignoring where you are on the head and paying only attention to your distribution and elevation, which is always T to the part. So there's going to be moments when it is going to appear that our mannequin is at an angle at which it isn't. Okay, so we put the comb into the hair. Now I want you to pay attention. We're going to look at it right from the beginning. This hair is give or take 5 inches long. This is probably my shortest piece. So I'm going to, and there's a weirdness in there. I don't know where that came from. We're just going to pretend it doesn't exist for the sake of this haircut. And I'm going to cut to holding T right here at the bottom. It's all I care about is that at the bottom of this, that we see T to the part at the bottom. And this is a round shape. So I know that as I go up the head and the head shape changes, okay? This is a curved line. So I realize that T is constantly changing. So I'm going to walk this up. I'm going to find my T and I'm going to cut it again. I'm going to walk this up again, create T, and I'm going to cut it again. Now, I'm going to check my guide. I'm being very conservative at this point. So it got just a tad longer, which I'm fine with. This is the hardest part of the whole haircut right here. So we're going to, again, distribute T. And we're going to cut this. Okay, can you see T right there? There's that extra length. So again, we're going to take this out. I'm going to just measure my just a tad long. And measure. This part has to be money in order to proceed on. Before I cut any hair on this head, I immediately look to see first if I'm creating T or not. Okay? Because that is paramount to ensuring I'm being exceedingly cautious. This is part of my thing about phobia about being recorded. Suddenly the things that I can do normally quite easily, when you're being recorded, it's a very different thing. Okay, so this part is money. So moving forward from here, I'll go ahead and drop out the hair that starts going up the head of the again. As we come out from the head, we check to make sure we're T. I'm only going to cut to my second knuckle. Pick up a little bit more hair. Elevate. I'm looking at the hair that is at my second knuckle, which is that little crease right there. I'm holding T. I'm going to cut again to the second knuckle. Elevate this up. We're looking for T. Looking for T. I'm going to cut this. So now is when we're going to have a moment of truth here. Oh, hallelujah. It's always embarrassing if you get up there and you've gone and made it shorter, especially shorter. Longer I can handle. Shorter can't be fixed. Short of going back and recutting the entire head. Okay. only cutting to the second knuckle. If you're cutting past that, you are running the risk of making this a lot harder on yourself. Again, right there's our T. The head is starting to bend forward, so our line isn't going to go straight up anymore. That would be cutting square. Our line is going to begin to look like it's going forward because that's where T is at this point in time on this head of hair. So we end up with this thing kind of looks like a unicorn horn sticking out here at the very end. Okay. Okay. We did our job. Very good. Okay, so we've got our guideline in now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working this back section of the hair. Reestablish our quadrants. You can pick whichever side is most comfortable to you. Just gonna let this remain. Now we're going to be working pivoting radial sections around the head. Okay. So as before, the most important aspect is we are going to be doing T to the part, 90 degrees from the head, 90 elevation. This does not change throughout the whole haircut. And the most important thing is that you always make sure that the hair is T to the part directly over your guideline before you start cutting anything. Now, I like to view round layers as being comparable to scales in music. Okay? Nobody's going to pay to see a concert pianist practice their scales. Okay, chances are it would be a very boring and tedious show to watch. But the reality is that we practice our scales in music so that we get faster and better at our normal playing when we're playing music, and to impart certain aspects of music that create songs and create melodies. So so while we may hear in somebody playing music, we may hear, if a guitar player is playing a guitar solo, we may hear parts of scales, but they're put together in such a way that is rhythmically and melodically more pleasant to the ear. And now we're being directly over our guide. We don't want to keep cutting our guide, okay? We're going to leave that alone. So keep bringing this part down. So again, in relation to music, for any of my music people that are out there, we practice scales because it ingrains in us the habits that we need to have when we're playing other forms of music. Round layers is very similar to that. I don't know that anyone's ever going to come in and show you a picture of a complete head of round layers and say, I want this. And chances are that's never going to happen. It's not the most attractive haircut in the world. However, there are elements of round layers in almost every haircut I do every single day of the week in the salon. There's always some elements of round layers in there. And also, doing this haircut requires an incredible amount of discipline in keeping your positioning, your hand positioning, your distribution and elevation absolutely consistent. I've seen this haircut absolutely stymie very seasoned hairdressers, because as we go in our career, we often lose the discipline of precise haircutting, precision haircutting. I think for those of us who grew up in the era of precision haircutting, it might be a little different. But for those who haven't, when we're suddenly forced to really be extremely disciplined with our haircutting, we can very easily be stymied. Okay, so again, I'm going to just kind of take this part out of here. There's been variations of this in the past that have had you solve this whole bottom part first, but I've found that can also lead to its own set of issues as far as the struggles that hairdressers have with this haircut. So what I like to do is kind of keep it all together so that we don't view this in so many subsections. Okay, there's my guideline. Can you guys see that well enough? If I show you right along there. So for me, it's about, this section might be a little wide. So I'm trying to find T, find my guide, start to cut up into it. Coming in, where's my guide? There's my guide. Find T and cut. There. Okay, so I've kind of completed that quadrant. I'm just going to take a horizontal section. We are cutting vertically, right? So whenever we want to check something we've been cutting vertically, we take a horizontal check on it. I found a little blivet right here, so I'm going to now what you don't want to do is if you were to take a horizontal section and you see a little piece, see it's right there. I got a little long, and I'll bet that's because I got greedy on my guideline. What you don't want to do is cut it like that. Go back to the place where you created it, which is right in here, and find it. I see it. Well, I see the end result of it. Okay. There we go. That's looking right. Okay, so we can do this all the way at the head just to kind of see if we got this back on track. That's looking good. The other, of course, the good old measure test. It's always good because no matter where we go, it should be the same length, right? And we're keeping the length good. So we know we're good to go on that. Okay, so from here, I'm going to go ahead and just move into my quadrant 4, essentially. This is, I think, another one of those places where hairdressers start to get stymied because I'm just going to continue to work my pivoting radials. So again, before we cut, what do we check? This is one little hair right there. We check to see that we're directly over our guideline, over our subsection. We check to make sure that the hair is at 90 degrees. Okay. So we're going to pick up some of that hair. We're going to move it forward. So we're just going to keep pivoting off of that same spot at the crown where your radial parting and so we should probably check that because it's super easy to get longer right through here. And I want to make sure I'm staying on. Okay, we're staying good. I like to say, I guess I'll keep my day job. So yeah. I'm going to pick all this up. Again, find T, which looks very strange this far down on the head. T is more like this. Yes. Now notice I follow a simple rule every time I put my comb in the head. I flatten it out, flat against the head. So as I pull this out away from the head, I can measure the distance between here and here. This will give me an approximation of maintaining my distribution. And again, don't cut past the second knuckle. Pick up more hair, put that comb right back out there. And as soon as I can, I get my hands, my fingers behind it. And as I bring this up, I look, is everything T to the part? It does, it looks T to me. And then I cut to the second knuckle. Bring it up, is everything T? It looks T to me. Cut everything to the second knuckle. Okay? Now we can take another horizontal section, comb it down, see if we're maintaining round. It looks like we are. Get a little bit more water going here. You want to always maintain a nice consistent moisture in the hair. If the hair gets too dry, the elasticity changes, the way the hair behaves changes. Okay. And okay. Here, trying to maintain my T. T. I'll look around the corner. Am I keeping my hands completely parallel with my subsection, with my parting? I am. There's my guide. But even before I cut my guide, I still want to make sure, just because you see your guide and you cut along your guide, if you're holding the hair at the wrong angle, then you're still going to have the same problems you had before with it getting longer or shorter. You've really got to pay attention to the elevation and distribution of the hair, or it will get longer or shorter depending on your particular. If you over direct the hair towards you, then what's going to happen is this line is going to get consistently longer as we go. And if we go yeah, we're getting about 1/8 of an inch shorter. I thought it looked a little tad shorter. Wonder what happened there. If you over direct away from you, then it gets shorter. So chances are that might have been what I did, was I over directed just a tad away. So I was pushing. It's particularly challenging to try to cut hair while not blocking out a camera angle. I will say it's presented because I'm cutting hair in very unnatural stances. But hopefully that hasn't. Okay, now our final section should pretty much line us back up with our original guideline. And if it doesn't, then you got to wonder what happened. Okay. So here is our half done head of round layers. Okay, final section. Just have a couple hairs here. Okay, so whenever we do this cut, I'm always scared to do my horizontal check on it. bring this up and see if it's indeed round. Yeah, it looks round. Two little bobbles there. Okay, we did good. We finished at the same length we started with. That's a good sign. All right, and I will come back in a moment. Okay. As I mentioned before, I already prepped the hair with a little bit of Small Talk, TG Small Talk by Bedhead. And I just hit it with a little of the Catwalk Root Boost. So it's a kind of a spray mousse, if you will. And so now I'm going to blow dry this mannequin out. We're going to get a little. Again, come through. We're going to pick all some pieces up on the horizontal. Check it around. Nice round shape to it. Want to check it over here. Check it against here. Oh, look at that money. We're going to take another horizontal section this way. Take a look at it. Looking good. Money. Okay. Let's go look at this side. Get another horizontal section. Nice roundness to it. Now, one of the things I see students do sometimes, they pick this out and they see that the center part protrudes out, so they start cutting at this. Okay, don't do that. This mirrors the shape of the head, so we don't want to go and cut our roundness and make it basically square. Okay, we want to keep our shape. Looks good. Nice, that round shape to the head. Again, if it looks like that, and if you come out here and measure it, and it measures out all right, then leave it alone. Okay. Okay, this is your round layers.